Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. BTM here, bringing you a 1v1 on Texas. I'm playing German facing a Japanese, and it is a very, very interesting game, to say the least. I kind of messed up my beginning boom, actually. I did not realize it, but I ended up aging to the second age with 10 villagers total after sending my 2 settler wagons card when I was supposed to age with 13. So, right to begin with, I kind of shot myself in the foot, I guess, in terms of being able to play well, but I'm not going to spoil the game. I definitely did not start the game off as well as I could have, mainly just because I didn't know actually what to age with in general. So the game's beginning though, and we're getting things going, and building our house, getting our villagers, collecting our hunts. We're pretty lucky in terms of hunt distribution, having 2 decent hunts near us. Not super lucky in having to walk to go get them with settler wagons. It's a waste of time. Maybe I should have put them all on like the 1 deer close to me and then sent 1 villager to go gather them. That probably would have been more efficient in the long run, but we can worry about that later, I guess. Scouting out the map, I'm looking for cows, obviously, because this is Great Plains, and not Great Plains, this is Texas, and Texas is, of course, the land of cattle. Trust me, I actually live there. I have an apartment in Texas, so I would know all about the Texas cattle industry, y'all. I reckon that I'm be a darn expert, but not really. But with that being said, we're looking for the cows. We obviously don't want to allow the Japanese player to get them on his shrine, so it's very important that my explorer, as fast as possible, crisscrosses the map, finding cows wherever they may be. And so far we found 4, and I think that's actually all I end up finding, unfortunately. I think the Japanese player, ends up finding more. I remember that when I was in his base, just being like, wow, that's a lot of cows. So congratulations to you, Japanese player, for finding significant cowage. Your tonnage of cows is much impressive. So as you can see, I'm making more villagers, but I really should have made up to 13, and I age with 10 total, I believe. So that puts me 3 villagers behind. So that was a very risky and therefore foolish decision, not to have the proper strategy outlined and aware of, and whatever, yada yada. So that's gonna actually just something to be aware of. Now I am trying to do a cavalry rush using lanes, but as I said, I didn't age with the proper 13 villagers, so that kind of puts my strategy at a disadvantage to begin with. Obviously, if I had the proper amount of villagers, my economy would have been stronger going in the colonial age. Not spoiling what happened, I'm just saying I probably could have done a much better job. With that being said, I did a pretty decent job, I think, for the situation I was in. My reflexes, though, weren't super fast this game. Maybe it was because I was tired. I played this game at like 4 a.m., which, you know, it's a joy of being off for the summer and not working a day. You know, your sleep schedule gets all messed up. So that's kind of why this is the way it is. But as you can see here, I could have made 3 more villagers and then aged, and I would have been golden, absolutely fantabulous. But I didn't, and that was my mistake. And just a foolish choice by my part not to keep making villagers. Even in game, I was kind of like, it seems weird to be aging. And notice I age with 15 villager population, and I thought that you were supposed to age with 13 villager population. I saw somebody somewhere say that, and I was like, this is ridiculous. And notice I get those settler wagons to walk out all the way over there, and then I'm walking them back. So that again was an awful micromanagement mistake. So not necessarily doing well. Now what I am doing here is I'm trying to split my villagers between wood and coin. I want to get my first market up. I'd like to find a small wood treasure, although it's Texas, so I doubt I will. I don't think Texas is very prevalent in the small wood treasure department. But as I'm playing, I'm kind of thinking, all right, got to get my market, got to get my hunting dogs, got to get ready to have a ton of lanes popping out. And my choice to go lanes, even though knowing it was Japan, I knew when doing it, it was going to be a mismatch. By the way, I chose to build the house first just because I figured I'd get to the colonial age before I had another 100 wood for a market. So I decided if I needed a market or a house, I went the market or the house route, which it's debatable. And I also wasn't overly impressed with Blue's Japanese deck, but I won't spoil that now. Anyway, as I was saying, though, before I rudely interrupted myself just by being a rude interrupting myself, and look at my idle villager there. Ugh, come on, Eric, play the game better. I chose to go lanes even knowing it could potentially be a mismatch, and I did that for a few reasons. I assumed that he was going to mass Yumi archers. I always assume that a Japanese player will mass Yumi archers. I know that Ashigarus are fantabulous, but I expected, and I fully, undoubtedly expected him to mass Yumis, because it's pretty well established that Germans use a ton of crossbows. I mean, I kind of felt like that was like very expected of me, so I felt like going only Ulane strategy or mostly Ulane strategy, had a really good chance of catching him off guard. So it was kind of an interesting choice, but maybe not the smartest one. Although my first card was 8 crossbowmen, which I guess in hindsight, mistake. Now as you can see here, I'm building a house, a market, and a stable with the 400 wood I got from aging. Now I guess was kind of the benefit of my initial wood gathering efforts with my settler wagons. It was wise, and I'm just now going to buy hunting dogs, which at 5 minutes in the game, I feel like I'm behind where I should be. I only have 11 villagers. I could have 13 or 14, and I shouldn't have sent 8 crossbowmen first. That was an awful card choice. Generally, in this game, you should only send a military shipment as your second shipment or third shipment or whatever if you're going to the very, very all-out rush. But I'm not all-out rushing. I am kind of getting units out there, but it's not fast enough because it's mostly using U-lanes to be, I guess, considered an all-out rush. I don't know. Not necessarily good or well played. I think if I went back and replayed this, either way, if I wanted to try it again, I would probably turtle up a little bit and just focus on turtling, and that would and focus on economics. And that I think would make me a much stronger player in terms of just facing a Japanese player. But there's a reason why, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Now as you can see here, I'm definitely encroaching a little bit on Blue's territory, and my hope here was just to kind of pick off some shrines or just cause some pressure. I didn't want to give him the opportunity to just do whatever he wanted, and we got a good amount of U-lanes coming. We got some shrines here, and this is kind of my biggest problem with playing Japan, and I mean playing against Japan, is shrines have 1600 health, and it just takes forever to burn down with the early game siege if you're not massing pike. And against a Japanese player, you're not going to mass pike because you rarely see a Japanese player mass any sizable contingent of Naginata riders in the early game. So there was not much need there to mass pike, therefore it takes forever to get the shrines down. Therefore my army's basically sitting there for 30 seconds and is vulnerable to his actions. And you can see here I'm under pressure from those Naginata, and I do not know. Oh, he got them from the wonder when he aged up. That's right. Okay, so I lose right there though several villagers in a very noobish mistake. I kind of assumed just because there was towers around my base that I wouldn't be under any pressure, actually, which is a really dangerous and dumb assumption. Just because you start on a map with some extra buildings doesn't mean that I'm not going to be touched. And even more foolishly and unfortunately, the Naginata riders are able to save one of his explorers, which we had successfully killed, which is a huge downside for us because now we can go back to the map and start spreading shrines everywhere. As you can see here, I'm burning down the trade post, but then I stop halfway and I go to burn down the shrine as I'm being hit by his outpost. I was just trying to get out of the range of the outpost, really, but I guess that wasn't the smartest decision ever. I'm trying to make sure I'm keeping up villager flow and population housing. Not doing a fabulous job. I have a lot of people idle, running low on wood. It's just like, ugh, yuck. I don't know. I wasn't playing really well, but at the same time, I think at this point, I still had a little bit of, at least of a score lead. I had 4 U-lanes coming. I had 5 more from the home city, and here comes his army, and it's not that big of an army, but it definitely looked like more of an army than I could handle. But I chose to engage him. I thought, oh man, he's gonna run back and I'll be able to get it. I really overestimated here how powerful U-lanes would be, and there I lost what, 7 or so. And that's gonna bring me, I guess, to the main point of this video. And most of this video is actually gonna be comparing some numbers. The rest of this game is gonna be me just pretty much spamming out men and attacking, and I'll touch on the action on the field as it happens if it intrigues me. But this is kind of my biggest problem, or at least the reason why I think Japan versus Germany was or is a mismatch. And the major reason, I guess, that it comes down to is the fact that the crossbowmen as a unit, notice how many idle villagers I have. I didn't play necessarily super well this game. But the reason why I think Japan versus Germany is a mismatch for the German is because crossbowmen as a unit is pretty much their only ranged infantry unit in the first age, or first age in the colonial age, second age, and its stats go like this. They have 100 hit points, they have a speed of 4, they have a 20 line of sight, they do 18 damage per shot, doesn't count any multipliers, that's just their base, and they have a range of 16. Okay, somewhat respectable numbers, nothing to write home about, nothing that super exciting, but okay, that's that. Now compare, and by the way, they cost 40 wood and 40 food and 40 wood, my apologies, for a total grand cost of 80 resources. Now compare them to their Japanese counterpart. not of course including Ashigaru, which the Japanese can also make, but just compare them to Yumi archers. This is to me like the biggest crime or the biggest problem here. Yumi archers also have 100 health, just like the crossbowmen. They have the same speed, 4. This is where things get interesting. They have a line of sight of 22, okay? They have a damage of 19, and they have a range of 18. So if you're using pro or mostly Yumi archers, you have the ability to outrange and hit, which means you, when walking up or walking away or anything, facing against a bunch of crossbowmen with Yumi archers, you have the advantage. You're going to get off attacks before the Germany player does. Now, this is where the thing, but that's okay, right? You can say, well, they're just different units, and they pay a little bit more for their Yumi archers, so it's completely acceptable that Japan's Yumi archers cost a little bit more, right? I agree completely, but this is what really, really, really frustrates me here. Compare the stat line of an Ashigaru musketeer. It costs 80 food and 40 coin, right? So a total total resource count of 120, okay? So 60 more than, I guess, your average crossbowman. But it has 170 health compared to the crossbowman's 100. It has a 4.5 speed, so it's faster than the crossbowman, so it can run away if it doesn't have a favorable matchup. It has a 16 line of sight, okay? So it's a smaller line of sight. It does 24 damage relative to the crossbowman, and the crossbowman only does 18, and it's got a 12 range. So basically what you have is you have a shorter range and attack, but you have faster moving. So if you micromanage well, you can pretty much keep yourself safe and run away pretty decently. Now here's the biggest problem. Crossbowmen's combat multipliers against heavy ranged infantry in the colonial age without any upgrades from the arsenal is only a 1.25 bonus. So that means that it's only going to get a 25% bonus to its range damage. The crossbowmen will. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's what is that? 1/4 of 18. That's like 3 or so, 4 maybe. No, it's 4.2. So a crossbowman will do 4.2 damage, or will get 4.2 damage added to its initial 18 when it's fighting against a Ashigaru musketeer for doing a total damage of less than 24. It'll do around 23 or 22. So it's going to do less damage, and to begin with, it has over 70 less health. So if you manage to mass, let's say, 8 or 30 crossbowmen to 30 Ashigarus or 20 Ashigarus or 25 Ashigarus, you're in trouble. Add to that to the fact that the Yumi archers have a longer range, and it's really, really rough to play. So, granted, I lost a lot of units this match, but looking back on it, I just felt like my military didn't stack up well. Now, granted, I didn't play well, but at the same time, you know, every time Japan and I fought a comparable numbers match, I lost that fight, and I lost it badly. And that's something interesting. If you look at the post-game, I actually had more military units. Japan was slaughtering me. Granted, he was doing a good job raiding with those same 3 dang Naginata riders, and I was playing like an idiot. But at the same time, you know, if you have 40 crossbowmen, you should at least be able to decently match up against an army of skirmishers and Ashigaru. You shouldn't get completely decimated. You know what I mean? So it was kind of really frustrating for me in hindsight. When I was looking back, I was kind of like, well, this sucks, you know. I did a pretty decent job spamming out units. Granted, I didn't play amazingly, but I kept myself in it. I kept myself competitive. I lost a bunch of U-lanes, which was really foolish. But, you know, so that's something I should work on. But at the same time, my only ranged infantry option in the Second Age, my only ranged unit actually I can make in the Colonial Age, sucks relative to Japan. And Germany's unique here because they can't make any other. I don't have skirmishers with a longer range and better attack to back me up. I can't make musketeers, which are bulkier and have a better attack. There's nothing I can do. The only range unit I can make is a crossbowman, and they statistically can't even match up against a unit they're designed to counter. Now, I know that the guys at some of Heaven Games or whatever, they did make a fan patch and they balanced it out and they nerfed Japan a little bit, but I don't really want to bother playing the fan patch, even though I love it. For the videos, I like to keep the game as vanilla as possible. I've also been told, you know, use different interfaces, which make the game easier, and I've actually tried them, and they do make the game a lot easier. They help you micromanage better, keep a way better track of your military and your artillery. It's beautiful. It really is a beautiful thing, but I do not want to use that just because, you know, I like to keep the game as vanilla as possible. But that's my little rant. Stacking up, you know, crossbowmen, they can't beat Yumi archers, and they can't beat Yulane, or they can't beat Yumi archers, and they cannot beat They can't be Yumi archers and they cannot be Ashigaru musketeers. So it's a statistical mismatch in your game if you're placing against a Japanese as Germans to mass crossmen. So you think, well, that's fine. We'll just get a bunch of Yulain on the field. Incorrect. And here's the biggest problem here. Well, not the biggest problem, but it's an interesting problem I found. A Naginata rider costs 100 food and 100 gold. A Yulain costs 50 food and 50 gold, I guess. So the difference between the two units is the ending grand cost of 50 food, which isn't that much, especially, you know, by the time you're massing Cavalry. It's not a big deal. So let's do a stat comparison here. This is where I really kind of got frustrated, okay? Keep in mind that Naginatas only cost 50 more, okay? Only 50 more. Not that much. Only 50 food more, okay? Yulains have 190 health points. Naginata riders have 300, okay? So right off the bat, Naginatas have over 110 more health points than Yulain does. That's pretty freaking ridiculously bad and problematic for the Yulains if you're ever going to match them up. Naginatas have a faster speed. So despite being way bulkier, they're faster, which doesn't make sense. Generally, the bulkier units should be slower, but Naginatas will outrun your Yulains all day, okay? 6.8 speed for the Naginata riders relative to a 6.2 speed for the Yulains, okay? Now, this is where it really bothers me. Naginata riders have a line of sight of 15 relative to 12 for the Yulain, and that really frustrates me because it's like, well, if Naginata riders have such a great view and are faster and they're bulkier, it really takes out the role of Yulains as a specialist, you know, light, fast, heavy cavalry that specializes in raiding. You know what I mean? So that kind of is frustrating. Now, this is where things get interesting, though. Naginata riders have a melee attack of 28, whereas Yulains have a melee attack of 37. Okay, so interesting, right? Yulains have 9 more attack, pardon me, than a Naginata rider. But that difference is abysmal relative to the bonus of health relatively. That 9 more attack per hit, that's not going to do much considering that Naginata riders have almost a 40% increase in hit points. So it's really a mismatch. You can't even counter you can't even just straight up cav on cav. You can't use your Yulains to counter Naginata riders, which I did try to do in this match and I failed pretty epically. And also, the other thing that's really sucky is Yulains only resist 10% of range damage, whereas Naginata riders resist 30% of range damage. So Naginata riders just solidly and resoundingly beat the units. So I kind of felt like when playing as Germany, even though I messed up my strategy and I didn't play well, I felt like my method of going about it was wrong just because my units weren't a good choice. Now, as you can see here, though, by this point in the game, even though it's pretty much over more or less, I did make it to the Fortress Age, and I do have a cannon coming. And that's the other thing. Germans can only make one H3 cannon from the home, ship one H3 cannon from the home city, not two, and that is incredibly frustrating. So all around, this game's going to wrap up. Blue's going to finally come in and just finish me off, I guess, and that's a bummer. And I wish I could have done better, but so it's a combination of, I guess, for me, in hindsight, now I know my units a lot better. You know, I can look at this and I can say, you know what? I know what units I should have used. I should have used, you know, I should have rushed better. I should have done this. I should have done that. I shouldn't have let my Yulains die because they're weak. You know, I can't really afford to lose any of them. Yada, 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 yada. And now we know really kind of how to exploit, I guess, Japan a little bit. If we know that, you know, Yumi archers have a long range and a long line of sight, and that Naginatas are as fast as heck. And, you know, but that was all around, I guess, a real bummer for me, relatively, just trying to figure this out and play the game. Didn't do a fantabulous job, that is for sure. And I didn't compare flaming arrows to falconets, but I'm fairly sure that they have a longer range as well. So it sucks, even though they have a lesser attack. And I guess it's something I've learned as a player. I like units that have a really long range. I struggle having to close that distance and fight and then being vulnerable to the hit and run, and I think a lot of people at the higher levels of the game do. So all around, as you can see, I managed to get a lot more military units out on the field, but his just combined little army of Yumi archers, samurai, and Ashigaru just decimated me, even though, in theory, crossbowmen should kill them all, and of course that's not counting the flaming crows or whatever, the flying, no, not flaming crows, flaming arrows. Flying crows are Chinese. That's not counting those, of course, but at the same point, that doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? I lost my battles before that final battle ever happened. The game was over, so it was definitely a bummer for me, but I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna do a lot of research on Germany in the off-camera time and bring you a much better match next time, I hope. And we're gonna keep improving and keep playing well and learning a lot. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and today's quote of the day is also from Sun Tzu and the Art of War, and it says, "Carefully compare the opposing army with your own, so that you may know where strength is superabundant and deficient." Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, good luck and happy hunting.